The first time Leo saw Caleb, he was a wreck. A gash on his head was bleeding sluggishly down his temple. His father, Frank, gripped a whiskey bottle, spewing a litany of curses that condemned generations of his own family, himself included. Leo had just started college, scraping together tuition through work-study jobs, yet Frank still frequently demanded money from him. He had claimed his crores were closing in, telling Leo to come home and get ready to claim his body. Frank had screamed at him that the student aid grant he'd applied for had to go to him first, or Leo might not have a father for much longer. He gestured imperiously, ordering Leo to call his mother for cash. They had been divorced for years. Leo knew his mom was barely getting by on her own. He had naively believed that getting into college would be his escape from this house. Just as he was about to get up and pack his things, a group of men burst into the apartment. Frank's tone immediately shifted to one of fawning respect. The man he called Caleb looked to be around 30. He had the rugged, handsome features of a classic movie star, the kind of face older generations admired. But his eyes were sharp, carrying a dangerous edge. Caleb lit a cigarette, studying Leo through the haze of white smoke, and asked if this was the son being offered as collateral for the debt. Frank nodded eagerly, pointing at Leo as if presenting a prize, boasting that his son got good grades and was in great shape, a man of both brains and brawn, to be used to pay off a debt. The words ignited a fire in Leo. He lunged at Frank, swinging a fist. Caleb frowned with impatience. With a slight lift of his hand, several large men slammed Leo to the floor. A burning pain flared across his left cheek. He thrashed, screaming for them to let him go, asking his father if he had lost his mind. His chest heaved, his nose filling with the smell of dust. The men hauled him up, forcing him to his knees. Caleb walked over to him. His black shirt was immaculate, his slacks perfectly creased, outlining a powerful physique. An expensive-looking silver watch adorned his wrist. The toe of a polished leather shoe came to rest under Leo's chin. Leo tilted his head up slightly and heard Caleb's assessment that he wasn't bad-looking. He glared back with cold defiance. Caleb didn't seem offended. In fact, he looked more intrigued. He remarked on the fact that the son was a college student. Frank just laughed nervously, saying they couldn't afford it anymore. Caleb's brow furrowed slightly. He thought it was a shame that a college education was a valuable thing these days. Blood from his forehead dripped over his eyelid, blurring his vision. A hand, not entirely gentle, wiped it away. When Leo opened his eyes, Caleb was leaning in close. His own wretched reflection was captured in the man's handsome irises. The proximity was unsettling. Leo froze, instinctively averting his gaze. Seeing this, a small smirk played on Caleb's lips. He offered to sponsor him. He ruffled Leo's hair like one might pet a dog and asked his age. Leo replied that he was 20. Caleb stood, casually grinding the cigarette out on Frank's face, eliciting a sharp cry of pain. Unfazed, Caleb stated coolly that from now on, Leo was with him. That same day, Caleb's men delivered the money directly to Leo. He knew Caleb was no ordinary man. Young as he was the kingpin of Eastbridge, with more businesses than one could count. Leo couldn't understand why such a decisive and powerful man would take an interest in sponsoring him. Caleb had said he looked good, but Leo had been covered in dirt and blood that day. Besides, who funds an education based on looks? He kept wondering what Caleb wanted from him. 2 weeks passed. One of Caleb's men picked him up from campus. Leo assumed they were heading back to Eastbridge, but the car stopped in front of a nearby hotel. The man handed him a key card, instructing him to go up, that Caleb was waiting. Full of apprehension, Leo took the elevator. When he entered the room, Caleb was nowhere in sight, but the sound of running water came from the bathroom. 10 minutes later, Caleb emerged with only a towel wrapped around his waist. Water droplets traced paths down his muscular abdomen. His front and back were a roadmap of old scars, both stinging and wild. He took a sip of water and ordered Leo to go take a shower. Leo remained seated, his brow furrowed, and asked what he wanted. Caleb glanced at him sideways, questioning if he really didn't understand. Even the most oblivious person would have understood by then. Leo refused firmly, stating he wasn't into men and that Caleb should find someone else. As he turned to leave, Caleb's voice cut through the air, sharp and commanding, telling him to stop and get back over there. A long silence followed. Caleb sat on the sofa and turned on the TV to a music channel, finally filling the quiet room with sound. Leo walked over. Then came another command to kneel. Leo's face flushed with anger, and he glared at the man, but the knowledge that his family's fate was in Caleb's hands forced him to comply. He lowered his head in humiliation and slowly knelt. A warm hand stroked his earlobe, a gesture that felt oddly soothing. Leo's eyes shot up, his heart trembling. There was no denying Caleb's magnetism, amplified by the scars that hinted at a violent past, like an untamable wolf. Yet, when his gaze softened, he exuded a sense of calm. He asked casually if Leo knew how to kiss. Leo tried to resist, mumbling that he didn't need the sponsorship. Caleb ignored him, playfully patting his cheek and stating with certainty that this was his first time. Leo's slight flinch was all the confirmation Caleb needed. He leaned in, whispering that he would teach him. As if bewitched, Leo closed his eyes. Caleb's lips were softer than his personality suggested. A faint sweetness began to emerge, and Leo found himself wanting more, instinctively rising up to meet the kiss. Caleb pulled back, a surprised look on his face, but said nothing more. He was now lying on the sofa, the towel having come loose. The sight was distracting. Caleb removed Leo's glasses, taking control. Leo accepted it all, until the taste of blood broke them apart. Caleb's gaze scanned down Leo's body like a scanner, a low chuckle escaping him. He asked lazily if this was what not being into men looked like. Leo admitted he'd never been in a relationship. Caleb stared at his face, a conflicted expression crossing his features, before telling him to take 2 Blu-rays on his way out. He lamented that it would be a waste of a pretty face if he couldn't learn. When Leo asked what he was supposed to learn, Caleb leaned in and whispered 2 words in his ear. A hot blush instantly spread across Leo's cheeks at the sheer bluntness of it. On the way back, the discs in his hands felt like hot coals. A text came from Caleb. "Watch the one on the bottom. Don't get the wrong idea, kid." Leo quickly shut his phone and rolled down the car window for some air. "Leo, did you get in a fight?" His roommate, Ethan, asked, pointing to the scab on the corner of his mouth. A slender, pale hand offered a tube of ointment. Leo thanked him but didn't take it. The mark was from Caleb's bite. His mind flashed back to the videos from the previous night. He had done as Caleb said and focused on the person on the bottom. The entire time he felt nothing. But later, lying in his dorm bed, the images replayed in his head. Only this time the person on the bottom had Caleb's face. In the fantasy, Caleb cursed and fought to suppress something, even shedding hot tears at the end. But the real Caleb would never beg for mercy. The thought alone kept him tossing and turning. "Leo, are you dating someone?" Ethan's voice pulled him from his thoughts. He told him no. Ethan seemed thoughtful. He then suggested they go get dinner. Ever since Leo had stepped in to help him once, Ethan had taken to following him around. Ethan was fair-skinned and slender, with soft features that had made him a target for bullying from some of the other guys. He often came to Leo with questions about coursework, and since they were both from Eastbridge, they had grown closer over time and often ate together. Ethan asked casually if Leo had seen the campus forum, mentioning a rumor about two guys at their school dating. Leo's response was flat. He didn't pay attention to such things. Ethan pressed, asking if he didn't find it disgusting. Two men. Leo looked up, his tone hardening, and said it was their business and not something to gossip about behind their backs. Ethan obediently agreed, but then asked one last question. So Leo wasn't against two men being in a relationship? Leo's brow furrowed, and he demanded to know what Ethan was really trying to ask. Startled, Ethan shrank back, looking hurt. He said that Leo had changed since coming back from break, that while he'd always been distant, he'd never been this harsh. He listed off a series of minor slights that Leo couldn't even recall, like no longer letting him shower first. Feeling a bit helpless, Leo made an excuse and left. A week went by without a word from Caleb. Sometimes, while holding his phone, Leo would catch himself staring into space and feel, with a shudder of disgust, like some forgotten consort in a cold palace, waiting for the emperor's favor. He cared less about favor and more about showing Caleb the results of his studies. When he returned to Eastbridge for the weekend, Frank was out playing cards. That evening, his friends Miles and Jake came over. Their boss was Caleb. After a few beers, Jake couldn't hold back his curiosity about the sponsorship. He was amazed that the boss was actually funding Leo's education. Miles, always more perceptive, noticed Leo's unease and asked if something was wrong. Leo brushed it off with a vague answer. In their stories, Caleb was a decisive man of action who never had women around. Jake had a theory that the boss might be into men. When Miles asked how he knew, Jake puffed out his chest and mentioned his time managing the Gold Pavilion, a high-end club Caleb owned. He said the boss had a very specific taste. Leo took a sip of his beer and asked what kind of type. Jake fell into thought, recalling that they had to be educated, refined, preferably with glasses, and good-looking but not weak. His eyes lit up as he looked at Leo. Hey, just like Leo. The words hung in the air. Jake froze, realizing he might have stumbled upon a huge secret. He glanced nervously at Miles, who quickly pulled Jake to his feet, saying they had to go. The room fell silent again. Leo finished the last of his beer and pulled up Caleb's number, hesitating. Suddenly, his phone buzzed. It was Caleb. Leo's heart skipped a beat. His voice was unsteady when he answered. Caleb, on the other end, was sharp, immediately asking if he'd been drinking. Before Leo could answer, Caleb continued on his own, saying they could forget it then and do it another day. Leo quickly interjected that he wasn't drunk, that he'd only had a little. His palm was sweating. Caleb's voice, low and magnetic through the receiver, said he was sending someone to pick him up. After hanging up, Leo washed his face. He decided he hadn't drunk that much. He took a shower and changed into a fresh set of clothes. Then he just had to wait for the royal chariot. He chuckled at his own thought. A moment ago, he had been angry that Caleb might have been with others, but now he was inexplicably happy just at the prospect of seeing him. It was 10 at night when he arrived at Caleb's villa. The house was dark, except for a faint light from a second-floor room. He pushed open the door and found the glow came from a lamp on Caleb's nightstand. Caleb was on the balcony on the phone. The night was chilly, and he was only wearing a thin shirt, sleeves rolled up to reveal well-defined forearms. His broad shoulders and narrow waist were clearly defined. Leo scanned the room. It was clean but messy, with clothes strewn about and an unemptied ashtray. Caleb didn't seem to live a very refined life. "What are you looking at?" Caleb asked, walking toward him, his brow slightly furrowed. "You gotten taller?" Leo stared at him intently. "You don't like guys taller than you?" Caleb clicked his tongue, amazed. "Your whole attitude has changed. Where did you go for training?" "I've been studying those discs you gave me," Leo said, leaning in for a kiss. Caleb laughed, leaning back. "Not so fast, puppy." The nickname was strangely endearing, as if it burrowed through his ear and found his racing heart. The kiss was a little rough, a little thrilling. Leo clung to him for another moment. Caleb chuckled, telling him to slow down. He then said he was going to measure Leo's waist. Leo's eyes darkened. He felt like Caleb was treating him like all the others. With Caleb's breath tickling his ear, he asked if he preferred it gentle or rough. Leo curved his lips into a smile and asked, "What about you?" After a moment's surprise, Caleb answered honestly that he liked it rough. Hearing this, Leo suddenly grabbed the hand at his waist. Before Caleb could react, the tables had turned. "Fuck," Caleb cursed. "Leo, did you learn the wrong thing?" He hadn't learned how to submit. When Leo's fingers brushed against his lips, Caleb bit down hard. Pain flared, drawing blood, but Leo didn't flinch. He continued, saying he had simply learned how to make someone feel good. The kiss was more like a fight. By the end, Caleb was breathless and exhausted. Ultimately, Leo couldn't do much to him. It had to be consensual. "You're stubborn. Frustrating, isn't it?" Caleb glanced at him. Leo, feeling the alcohol finally hit, nodded. Caleb glared at him, a look of exasperation on his face. After a long moment, something in Caleb's eyes shifted. He cursed under his breath, asking what the hell his mother fed him. Leo's breathing hitched. After a long pause, he couldn't resist a cheeky compliment. "You kiss well, Mr. Caleb." When morning came, Caleb was gone. Breakfast was left on the table. While he was out, Leo cleaned the house, neatly folding his clothes and putting them away. He waited until noon, but Caleb didn't return. Around 12, one of his men came to deliver something, telling him Caleb was busy. Leo realized he was being avoided. Before leaving, he sent Caleb a text. There was no reply by the time he got back to campus that afternoon. Yesterday, when it was his turn to kiss him, Caleb had clearly enjoyed it. This feeling of being left hanging was agonizing, like having an illness without a diagnosis. Back in the dorm, Ethan noticed his distraction. While their other two roommates were at the cafeteria, Ethan came over holding something familiar. The Blu-ray discs. "Leo, so you do like men." He placed the discs gently on the table. "I'm the same as you." His eyes were full of expectation. Leo's expression turned cold. "Who told you you could touch my things?" That weekend, only Ethan had stayed in the dorm. Leo had left the discs in his unlocked desk drawer. Ethan's smile froze. He explained that he had been looking to borrow a book and saw them by accident. He looked like he was about to cry. "I'm sorry, Leo. Did someone important give them to you?" "Yes, someone very important." "Is it your boyfriend?" Ethan asked tentatively. Leo lied. "Yes." Ethan's face turned pale, his smile forced. "Why would he give you something like this? Isn't he afraid of people finding out and starting rumors?" Leo looked at him. "Right now, you're the only one who knows. If rumors start, it could only have been you." Ethan pointed to the discs. "This is the evidence. Why would I spread rumors about you?" He grabbed the discs, and with a surge of force, a sharp crack echoed as they both split down the middle. Ethan's gaze turned resentful. his fists clenched. "Leo, who is he? Is he from our school?" Leo stood up, tossing over his shoulder. "None of your business." Another 2 weeks went by. It was as if Caleb had vanished from his world. Leo analyzed his attitude and came to the miserable conclusion that it had probably been a whim. Since Leo couldn't satisfy him, Caleb was now discarding him. Autumn passed in a blur, and winter arrived. On the day vacation started, Ethan took the same bus back to Eastbridge. Their routes overlapped for a bit. While crossing a street, Ethan was distracted and nearly hit by an electric scooter. Leo grabbed his collar and pulled him back. Ethan rubbed his head, thanking him. As Leo looked up, his gaze locked with Caleb's across the street. The light turned green. Leo didn't move. Caleb started walking toward him. Ethan, puzzled, followed his gaze. It was only when they were closer that Leo noticed Miles was with him. Miles gave him a look, silently urging him to say hello. As Caleb was about to walk past, Leo grabbed his wrist. "Caleb," he said softly, "I'm on break." Only then did Caleb's eyes shift to him, then to Ethan, his expression neutral. "Good. Don't forget to study, even on break." Leo felt how cold his hand was. He saw that Caleb's overcoat wasn't very warm and started to unzip his own down jacket to give it to him. Caleb clicked his tongue and zipped it back up for him. Miles looked pained. "Leo, the boss is busy." Leo looked at Caleb, perhaps unaware of the wounded expression on his own face. It was enough to make Caleb's expression soften with a hint of reluctance. "We'll talk in a couple of days," he said, his tone gentle, almost apologetic. Leo broke into a smile, so relieved he was still dazed long after Caleb had walked away. His emotions, he realized, were completely in Caleb's hands, and there was nothing he could do about it. Over the winter break, Leo found a tutoring job. Miles told him that Caleb had taken him on an inspection of their operations that day, and that he was going to hand over control of their most important territory to him. Miles felt that Caleb truly valued him, but also had a strange feeling that Caleb was arranging his affairs before leaving for good. At home, Leo waited in vain for a message from Caleb. Instead, he saw Ethan again. His face was bruised. "Leo, that guy from the other day was your boyfriend, right? I've heard about Caleb. I can't believe you're involved with him." He pointed to his injuries, claiming that Caleb had people jump him the night before, that it must have been a misunderstanding. He warned Leo to stay away from someone so violent. Leo's mind seized on one piece of information, a thrill running through him. "You're saying Caleb got jealous and had you beaten up?" "Leo, why do you look so happy?" Ethan asked. Leo pulled some cash from his pocket and handed it to him. "For medicine." Ethan's eyes lit up. "Leo, you care about me." Leo patted his shoulder. "Not about you. But thanks for letting me know Caleb was jealous." Ethan's expression soured as if he'd swallowed a fly. "Leo, I really misjudged you. I can't believe you're this kind of person." He stormed off in a huff. Leo paid him no mind, instead recalling the route to Caleb's villa and hailing a cab. Caleb wasn't surprised by his arrival. It was dinner time, but there was no sign of cooking in the kitchen. Leo checked the fridge and found meat and vegetables, enough for a stew. But with Caleb around, he couldn't concentrate. Halfway through chopping vegetables, he couldn't resist pressing himself against Caleb's back. He smelled of warm sunshine, a comforting scent. He brought up Ethan's injuries. Caleb denied it, saying he wasn't that petty. He figured the kid was trying to win Leo's sympathy and give him a bad name. Caleb walked out of the kitchen to get a cigarette, his tone cool and detached, as if handling a business matter. He said he had no interest in Leo's love life and that he should handle it himself. "How should I handle it?" Leo asked. Caleb narrowed his eyes. If you're not clean, I don't want you. Felt like a needle pricking his heart. Leo's lips tightened. I am clean. He turned and went back into the kitchen, miserably continuing to cook. He kept his head down, his mood soured. He heard Caleb go upstairs. Rubbing his temples, he felt a sense of helplessness. By the time dinner was ready, Caleb came down and tossed a piece of clothing at him. It was a well-made, thick-down jacket. He served himself food nonchalantly. You were going to give me your jacket the other day. Didn't you feel how cold your own hands were? This was a leftover. You can have it. The jacket was brand new. Leo sat there, holding it like a treasure. It was the first gift he had ever received. No one had ever cared if his hands were cold. Caleb glanced at him and cleared his throat. If you don't want it, don't worry about it. Leo swallowed. Is the food good? It's not bad. Why aren't you eating? Leo smiled. I want to eat something else. Later that night, the first snow of the season began to fall. Caleb finally conceded. As Leo had hoped, the things he cursed felt incredible. He and Caleb began a secret affair. He became his lover, hidden from the light. Before, Caleb would send his men to pick him up. Now he came himself. He kept it a secret from Miles and Jake. Caleb didn't want anyone to know, saying that gossip alone could kill a person. During the break, besides tutoring, Leo started working out, trying to get a tan. Caleb's skin was a healthy bronze, and whenever they held hands, he would complain that Leo was paler than him. The money Caleb had initially given him for sponsorship, Leo had saved up and paid back. Caleb made a show of counting it. You really don't need it? Leo hugged him. If I have trouble, I'll ask my man for help. Calling him that always made Caleb secretly pleased. After the new semester started, they saw each other less. In the second semester of his sophomore year, rumors about him and Ethan started circulating on the campus forum. It began with a blurry photo taken at the school gate, showing Caleb's car. Only Leo could be seen getting out. In the comments, many people mentioned that he and Ethan were close, and that Ethan had been walking strangely lately. He scrolled to the bottom comment. Leo's into the cute type like Ethan. They're a normal couple. Leo seems so proper usually. Turns out he's the biggest player. Ethan's walk really is weird. Leo closed the page just as Ethan returned to the dorm. He was limping and it did look off. When he saw Leo looking, Ethan avoided his gaze and tried to explain. Leo told him to explain. Ethan waved his hands, insisting he hadn't told anyone. Leo warned him not to let him find out he was spreading the rumors. Ethan's porcelain-like face flushed with anxiety. His voice rose. What do you mean, spreading rumors? Leo, I like you. Can't you see that? Aren't we a good match? He stuck out his neck. Don't mess with me. The person behind me is someone you can't afford to offend. A sneer touched his lips. Even Caleb can't afford to offend him. Bang. Leo slammed him against the wardrobe, his forearm pressed against his throat. He watched Ethan struggle for breath, clawing uselessly at him. You dare to provoke Caleb, I'll make your life a living hell. Tears streamed down Ethan's face from the pressure, and he coughed violently. Leo backed away in disgust and noticed he'd missed a call from Caleb. He tried calling back, but no one answered. A sudden panic seized him. He redialed several times with no success. When he finally got through to Miles, his voice was heavy with exhaustion. You mean the boss? He went to Toronto. Should be on a plane right now. His heart remained suspended. He asked why Caleb went to Toronto. Miles patiently explained that he'd heard him mention it before, that Caleb was originally from there, and that he said he'd be back in 2 weeks. After hanging up, Leo was restless. He calculated the time. At 2 in the morning, he hid in the bathroom and called Caleb. This time he picked up. Leo. Hearing the familiar voice, he felt his whole body relax. But the next words shattered him. Let's break up. The faucet was dripping drop by drop. His heart seemed to sink with each one. Caleb's voice on the other end was cold. Leo, it was just for fun from the beginning. The gossip didn't affect him. People were just looking for entertainment. When they saw him attending classes and going to the library as usual, they lost interest. They didn't get the reaction they wanted, so they moved on. The focus shifted from him to Ethan. Someone saw him being intimate with another man and posted photos on the forum. Leo wondered why the powerful person Ethan boasted about would allow those photos to remain up. Later, he saw Ethan on his knees on the athletic field, begging some classmates to delete the post. Those guys had always enjoyed mocking him. As Leo passed by, they looked at him defensively. They had learned not to mess with him. Ethan looked up, the light in his eyes slowly dying. This time, Leo didn't stop. Meanwhile, Caleb stopped taking his calls. Leo asked Miles for his address, but Miles said he rarely had contact with him either. With Caleb gone, Miles was temporarily managing their operations. Leo, it seems like the boss has everything arranged. Over the phone, he could hear the noisy background and Jake playing cards. Miles said that a few disloyal members had been dealt with overnight and replaced with his old associates. On the way to the airport, Caleb had said one last thing to him. Leo gripped his phone tighter. What did he say? He said not to let Leo come near the business until it's clean. Leo had once said he'd help him after graduation. The world was changing fast, and the old ways were becoming obsolete. Caleb had gotten angry and told him to stay away. Leo felt like he had never truly understood him. Miles, if you hear anything from him, you have to tell me. Half a year passed. He returned to Eastbridge. Miles, despite his busy schedule, made time to see him. He looked much more haggard. His answers were evasive. There was still no news from the boss. He said he was still looking for him. Leo rubbed his fingers together. You're lying. Miles wiped his face. Stop looking. He's not coming back. What happened? Seeing Leo on the verge of collapse, Miles relented. I'll book you a ticket. Come with me to Toronto tomorrow. We'll bring him back. Leo quickly agreed. But Miles' next words plunged him into an abyss. To attend Caleb's funeral. What are you talking about? Leo shot up, not knowing what to do, his body stiff. Miles looked up at him. Caleb was from the Clark family in Toronto, a huge corporation. He went back that day for his mother's funeral. There was a car accident. Impossible. Leo slowly sat back down. He was a Clark. Why did he come to Eastbridge? Miles booked the tickets. He had a bad relationship with his father. It was pouring rain when they landed in Toronto. The flight had been delayed, and the funeral was almost over when they arrived. Staring at the name Caleb Clark on the tombstone, the world spun. Miles was talking to Caleb's father. Mr. Clark's attitude was indifferent. He was surprised they had found their way there, as he hadn't notified anyone in Eastbridge. Behind him stood an elegant woman, who whispered gossip identified as Mr. Clark's mistress, shamelessly appearing at his son's funeral. Another man was present, acting as a host, treating the funeral as his own social event. He was Julian, the family's illegitimate son, now the only living heir. Leo traced the carving on the gravestone, a heart-wrenching pain spreading through him. Rain and tears mingled on his face. Julian walked up behind him. So it's you. I saw you in the photos. His laugh was a harsh, grating sound. Leo slowly stood. What photos? Julian feigned mystery. The ones of you and Caleb. They were passed around by everyone in the family. I personally delivered them to his mother. She couldn't accept that her son liked men, fell ill and died. He stepped closer, tapping Leo's shoulder. My mother could never figure out how to get rid of her. You solved her problem for her. Impressive. A clap of thunder rolled overhead. Leo's fist shot out, connecting with Julian's face. Blood gushed from his nose. People rushed over. Miles grabbed him. As Mr. Clark approached, Julian waved his security away. It's fine. Let him grieve. Leo trembled uncontrollably, his legs giving out, and he knelt on the ground. Caleb, he whispered, his vision blurring. Liar. You didn't tell me anything. He wiped away his tears. You're not dead. And this was never just for fun. He gritted his teeth, wanting to dig up the grave with his bare hands. Miles held an umbrella over him. I can't be away from Eastbridge for too long. Let's go, Leo. On the way back, Leo noticed that Mr. Clark's driver looked familiar. The pieces of the puzzle clicked into place. Took some effort to find Ethan. During the break, he spent his days lost in various bars. Leo caught him at the Gold Pavilion. Ethan was completely drunk. Leo, I heard Caleb died. My condolences. Leo grabbed his collar and dragged him into the alley outside. You were the one who gave them the photos, weren't you? Ethan's eyes were glazed over. Leo, you were always so smart. Just your taste in men. A little strange. Leo's hand tightened on his neck, lifting him off the ground. Who's the person behind you? Ethan choked out the words, the young master of the Clark family. You can't afford to offend him. Thump. Leo threw him to the ground. Ethan cried out in pain, pointing at him. You're crazy. Leo punched him. You idiot. Was this the young master you were talking about? He showed him a photo on his phone. Ethan's hand trembled as he nodded. It was the Clark family's driver. His eyes widened, and he suddenly grabbed Leo's hand. You're lying. He's the young master. He was going to buy me a house. Give me a good life. You're lying. Leo pushed him away, dusting off his sleeves in disgust. Ethan was in despair. I saw him driving a luxury car. To get close to him, I threw away my dignity. I put up with everything to serve him. And now you're telling me he's just a driver? He watched Ethan's frantic questions, saw him rip open his own shirt to reveal a body covered in bruises, then start bashing his head against the wall, until only an eerie calm remained. When the new semester began, Ethan wasn't there. The roommates gossiped that he'd had a mental breakdown and been institutionalized. Apparently for attempted murder. He tried to kill someone. His lover, probably. I remember one time I woke up in the middle of the night and heard him barking like a dog on the phone. Thinking back, it's pretty disgusting. From then on, every weekend, besides his job, Leo searched for any clue about Caleb. He never believed he was dead. At first, Miles tried to talk him out of it, but eventually he just let him be. Leo planned to help him after graduation. It was less about helping Miles and more about keeping Caleb's businesses on the right track. Only in the places Caleb had been did he feel alive. He grew silent and withdrawn. Others were afraid to approach him. The only people he talked to were Miles and Jake. Once, after he personally interrogated a traitor in their organization, he looked at his blood-stained hands and realized something was wrong with him. His life force seemed to be draining away. Even Jake started to disapprove, muttering that he should find a regular job somewhere else. Some of the younger guys gave him a nickname, the Angel, an ironic jab at his handsome face and ruthless methods. But he had to stay. He had to wait for Caleb to come back. Sometimes, watching Miles in a black shirt with a cigarette dangling from his lips, giving orders to his men, he would see Caleb's face instead. He went to a therapist, but it was no use. Year after year passed. Snow fell and melted. Another new year arrived. The year before, Frank died of lung cancer. His mother had remarried and had another child. Last year, Jake got married. This year, even Miles found someone, a younger guy who was his total opposite. It seemed he was truly alone. He brought a case of beer to Miles's place. He was also alone this year, determined to overhaul the business so he could be with his new boyfriend, no longer clinging to the past. After a few drinks, Leo brought up Caleb's name. The two words felt like they were pulled from his very core, tearing at the roots that had grown there. It was agonizing. Miles sighed. "You've been getting worse these past few years. Sometimes the way you look at me scares me." "Sorry," Leo said with a bitter smile. "I'm terrified to think about what Caleb will say when he comes back and sees me like this. What if he doesn't want me?" Miles couldn't bear to say more. "I'll have my driver take you home," he offered. Leo waved him off. "I'll get a cab." He gave the driver a familiar address and watched the fireworks explode outside the window, brilliant and brief. Every week, he went to Caleb's villa and sat there for the entire day, cleaning and tidying everything himself. Today was no different. The TV was on, providing some noise to drown out the lonely beat of his heart. He silently tidied the kitchen, then moved to the living room, where the loneliness became unbearable. He collapsed onto the sofa, staring blankly at the ceiling. Maybe he should accept reality. Better to follow Caleb than to live alone. 3 a.m, the world fell silent. His gaze drifted to a corner of the ceiling. There was something there. A mounted security camera. Caleb had installed it. After he left, it never lit up again. He had assumed it was broken and never bothered to fix it. But now, a faint red light was blinking from within the lens. It was active. He felt like he was waking from a long dream, his pupils dilating. Caleb was gone. Who else would have fixed the camera? Or was it Caleb himself? He immediately called the company's tech support and sent men to investigate the surveillance system. He found a ladder and climbed up to check the old camera himself. He found marks indicating the videotape had been changed more than once. For the past few years, the tapes would have only captured him. What use would someone have for them? A voice in his head told him it had to be Caleb. The thought made him so unsteady he almost fell. The next afternoon, his men reported back. "Mr. Leo, we found her. It's a woman. She's clearly figured out your schedule." He knew Leo was at the company Monday through Friday and only came here on weekends. This time he waited. He watched her look around cautiously outside the villa, then use a key to let herself in. She was a woman who looked to be in her late 20s. Leo leaned against the doorframe and lit a cigarette. When the woman came out and locked the door, she froze. The barrel of his gun was pressed against the back of her head. Through a cloud of smoke, he asked softly, "Where is he?" She raised her hands, cursing. "Put the gun down first." The woman's name was Chloe. She was Caleb's cousin. In the living room, Chloe took a videotape from her bag. "I send one to my cousin every month. He said I could stop once you got married." She looked exasperated. "I told him technology has advanced, that he should switch to an online camera. He was afraid you'd get suspicious and wouldn't let me." Leo swallowed the bitter taste in his mouth. "Where is he? Why won't he come back?" Chloe hesitated. The mask Leo had worn for years finally shattered. His expression terrified Chloe so much that she started to cry. "He's in Toronto. He won't see you," she sobbed. "After the car crash. He can't walk anymore." Jake and Miles saw him off at the airport. "Why the sudden trip to study abroad?" Jake asked. Leo closed his eyes to rest. "Just going to deliver something to a friend." "What is it that you have to deliver personally?" A small smile played on Leo's lips. "Videotapes." According to Chloe, the car crash was Julian's setup. At the time, Caleb was grieving his mother's death and wasn't careful. It was his maternal grandfather who had someone rescue him and send him abroad. 2 years ago, his grandfather had also moved to Toronto to take care of him. Every day he went to a rehab center. Leo got the address. He had a million things he wanted to say on the way there, but when he finally saw Caleb, all his thoughts evaporated. The weather was bright, sunlight streaming into the room. Caleb was struggling to stand, his hands gripping the parallel bars, the veins on his arms bulging. A therapist was encouraging him. He smiled sheepishly. His skin was paler and he had lost weight. After just 2 steps, his forehead was covered in sweat. The therapist noticed Leo. "Sir, you can't come in here." Caleb turned his head. His gaze froze. Thud. He fell to the floor. Luckily, the floor was padded, but he still hit his wrist. He sucked in a sharp breath, his face contorted in pain. Leo rushed over and hugged him. "Don't be afraid. Let me see. It's okay." He kept repeating the words, gently rubbing the slight bruise. He continued rubbing until Caleb's sigh sounded above his head. "Leo, don't cry." He studied Leo's face, clumsily wiping away his tears, just as he had done all those years ago when his father was about to sell him off. It wasn't gentle at all, but it was exactly what he loved. He helped him back into the wheelchair and said to the therapist, "I'm his boyfriend. Can you tell me about his recovery progress?" The therapist looked at Caleb, who nodded with a resigned sigh. The therapist explained that it was a slow and torturous process. Caleb hadn't resisted rehab. At first, he struggled to adjust from being able-bodied to disabled. He had breakdowns, fell into depression, and even gave up for a while. But then he rebuilt himself and continued his therapy, rain or shine. When Leo came downstairs, Caleb was waiting for him. In the short distance, he had looked at Leo no less than 10 times. His eyes held both nervousness and joy. They were red-rimmed. He tried to sound nonchalant, joking that he'd gotten handsome over the past few years, as if they were just old friends who hadn't seen each other in a while. Leo knelt and took his hands. 5 years, he said, holding out the videotapes. Caleb didn't take them. His hands unconsciously fidgeted. "Leo, I'm not the man I used to be." Leo smiled at his words. "So what? I'm not the boy I used to be either." A flash of pain crossed Caleb's eyes. He cursed under his breath about 2 grown men crying like this. "I'm fine. The doctor says I'll be able to stand again." He sniffed. "I waited for the tapes every month. One time, Chloe was late sending it. I thought you'd gotten married." Caleb covered his eyes, a bitter smile on his face. "I honestly felt like dying then." A deep fear washed over Leo. They had almost truly missed each other. "Caleb, did you ever think?" His words were difficult. "What if I had never gone back to your house? What if I didn't care at all whether you lived or died?" With each word, a dull ache throbbed in his chest. "Aren't you afraid that I might have thought it was just a game? Too? That I might have turned around and fallen in love with someone else? Forgotten you completely?" His chest heaved. The Caleb in front of him started to blur. Tears fell hot against the floor. He was so afraid this was a hallucination that he didn't dare let the tears linger. "Leo, I was a complete mess back then. I was afraid of dragging you down. Caleb gently wiped his tears and opened his arms. They held each other tightly. He still smelled of warm sunshine. Leo's voice trembled as he asked solemnly, "Mr. Clark, I'm still clean. Do you still want me?" The answer came in the form of a solid kiss and the words, "I love you." Caleb's grandfather had long wanted to return to the country, and now that Caleb was willing, it was a joyous occasion for everyone. Leo only told Miles and Jake that he was alive. They were ecstatic and couldn't wait to see him. When they brought up his past ruthlessness, Caleb just smiled. He said he now just wanted to find a quiet place and live a good life with Leo. Leo arranged for a hospital in Eastbridge and set up a rehabilitation plan, buying a new villa for them. There was one more thing to take care of. Caleb wanted to forget the past and wasn't interested in power or wealth, but some debts had to be paid. Julian was now the head of the Clark family. Fighting him with strategy was less effective than fighting him with brute force. Leo picked a day and made a trip to Toronto himself. Julian's bodyguards were useless. Soon, news of Julian's disappearance spread in a small circle, but the Clark family kept it quiet to protect their stock price. These past few days, Leo had been coming home late. Caleb didn't ask questions. He just leaned back when Leo tried to kiss him, saying with disgust, "Go take a shower. The blood stinks." He pinched Leo's sleeve. Half a month later, Julian was found unconscious at his company's entrance. There were no physical injuries, but he had suffered a complete mental breakdown. He was insane. The Clark family was in chaos, a headless dragon, a pile of loose sand. Julian was sent to a psychiatric hospital, the same one Leo occasionally visited because an old acquaintance was there. "I'm here to see Ethan," Leo told the nurse. She pointed to a room. "You have 15 minutes. I heard the illegitimate son of the Clark family is here too." A flicker of disgust crossed the nurse's brow. "You know him? He's not allowed visitors yet. He's incontinent and has no control over his actions." Leo shook his head with a smile. "Visiting Ethan is enough." In the room, Ethan wore a patient's gown, his expression vacant. He didn't recognize him. Leo felt a pang of regret. "You don't even recognize me anymore. Ethan? You liked the young master of the Clark family, didn't you? Well, he's here now." His smile didn't waver. "You two can be together forever." Caleb was slowly able to stand on his own. His expression was one of pure joy. "I fucking knew I could do it." In his excitement, he nearly fell, but Leo caught him securely. Caleb looked a little odd. "Let me down." Leo buried his face in Caleb's neck, as if shedding his armor. All his fatigue melted away in his lover's arms. Caleb sensed something was wrong and sniffed the air. "You went to the hospital?" Leo just hummed in agreement, not wanting to bring them up and ruin the mood. Caleb's large hand stroked his hair. His palms were calloused from rehab, but his touch felt incredibly comforting. "Aren't you going to put me down?" Leo held him tighter, hoisting him up and heading straight for the bedroom. "Wait for me. I'm going to take a shower." Caleb's ears turned red. "What's your hurry? What do you think?" At 2 a.m, watching Caleb sleep, Leo felt a happiness he had never known before. A lost pearl found again. He wanted to bite down on this pearl and swallow it whole. Caleb hadn't changed, especially not his knack for cursing. Leo leaned in and placed a kiss on his lips. Caleb's hand shot out and slapped his face. "Go to sleep. If you move again, you'll see what happens." A smile spread across Leo's face. "Caleb, I will always find new strength to love you." They had weathered every storm and would now welcome a new dawn and a lifetime with the one they loved.